We are speaking about a fiscal crisis at the scale greater than the Great Recession.
$1 billion in debt. $1 billion in debt. $1 billion in debt. $1 billion in debt. On bunch of illegal immigrants.
America, the Pew Charitable Trusts, not Fox News, not a Republican PAC, not a conservative think tank, reviewed budget documents, city financial records, and official document statements, and found that at least 20 of the nation's 25 most populous cities are staring down budget deficits right now. But here's the part that they buried in paragraph 4. In a 5-month stretch, 4 of those cities had their credit ratings downgraded simultaneously. And you guys guessed it, every single one of those cities is run by a Democrat. And every single one has the exact same solution to the problem that they created. They need more money.
We have reached a point of no return. The systems that people rely upon, education, healthcare, housing, our transportation, they are woefully underfunded. And everyone knows that. Everyone knows what, my commitment is to progressive revenue. I can't do this by myself.
What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Before we start, I want to give you one phrase, so write it down, and you're going to hear it a lot throughout this video. From mayors, from governors, from press secretaries in very nice suits, blame the guy who just got here. Every single city on this list had said the same version of it. By the end of this video, my hopes is, at least, you'll be able to identify this in the wild in real time before they finish their actual sentence. Let's take a tour of it. Before we get city by city, we need to understand the architecture here. A lot of these cities use federal pandemic relief money to fill budget holes that were there way before C-19 and the pandemic ever existed. The chalk ran out, the walls were already crumbling. Here's the business model step by step. Step 1, spend more money you take on. Step 2, promise pensions you can't fund. Step 3, hire people you can't afford. Step 4, tax the residents until the ones that have options actually leave. Step 5, watch the tax base shrink to oblivion. Step 6, run a deficit. Step 7, blame whoever most recently moved into the White House. Blame the orange man. Blame Donald Trump. Step 8, repeat. Speaking of governments that mishandle information, let me show you something that'll make those budget deficits look like pocket change here. This is an 11-page report showing exactly what data brokers know about me and are actively selling that information right now. My home address, my income statements, my shopping habits, and even my family members' information. They are making billions and billions of dollars selling it without my consent while I'm over here breaking down city budgets. And here's the thing, if you Google your own name right now, these same data brokers will pop up with the results claiming they're selling your information as well. It's absolutely infuriating to me that we have to choose between going completely off grid like a nomad or letting these companies profit off of our personal information. That is why I am proud to partner with today's video sponsor, Aura. Aura identifies data brokers that are selling your information and automatically removes them from these sites and keeps them off. Look, there are other services that offer this, but they're not as good and they don't offer as many features as Aura does for the same exact price. You get dark web monitoring, real-time fraud alerts, a VPN, password management, antivirus. Plus, if anything goes wrong, they have $5 million in identity theft insurance and 24/7 US-based support. Try Aura for free for 14 days at aura.com/Tyson DeLaCruz. Again, that's aura.com/Tyson DeLaCruz. And in those 2 weeks, Aura will start scrubbing your personal information off these data broker websites without you even lifting a finger. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable to this, and you shouldn't either. Quickly, one note before we proceed. Houston, Texas, traditionally Republican-leaning, is also on the deficit list. That's because Houston now has a Democrat mayor, and the pattern follows the governance, not necessarily the geography. Just want to be precise here so nobody can say that I skipped a city.
Usually the increase is less than half of that. And
this matter is adopted by the board.
Civic Federation President Joe Ferguson, who says this year's $146 million deficit is actually better than the original projections. He says it's this number, $1.149 billion, that should raise alarms.
That tells us that number is real. And that is a very big number. It's about as big a number as the city has had to deal with.
Now let's jump into Chi-Town, Chicago first, because Chicago is the absolute blueprint. Chicago is where you go to see what every other city on this list is building towards. Brandon Mohawk Johnson stood up and told the city that he'd reached to a point of no return. How pathetic is that? That is an extraordinary thing to say at a budget press conference. Most politicians spend their entire career avoiding this particular language that's so direct. But no, my friends, not Brandon Mohawk Johnson. He said it out loud. He said it on camera. And here's the numbers in sequence. Deficit for 2026, $1.15 billion. Pension bill due this year alone is $2.85 billion. Total unfunded pension liability, $35 billion. Percentage of every single dollar that goes to debt services before a single pothole gets fixed, 40%. The projections under optimistic assumptions show the gap growth every year through at least 2028.
The Chicago Board of Education has voted unanimously to reimburse the city for a $175 million pension payment. It's been a point of contention for several months. The pension covers both CPS and city employees. State law requires the city to pay it, but Chicago's dealing with a budget deficit of more than $1 billion. However, Mayor Johnson's budget calls for more than $500 million in TIF funds to go to Chicago public schools.
The phrase point of contention for several months translated to Johnson's own appointed board refused to pay him and took months of standoff to get the actual money. The beautiful part, and I mean this sincerely, this deserves its own particular moment in this video, is that a board member who initially refused that payment, appointed by Brandon Johnson, his own board appointed him, refused him. His solution to the broader deficit, an $830 million bond deal that delays principal payments for 20 years. His own financial advisor compared it to the parking meter boondoggles that haunted Chicago for generations. That's not just myself, Tyson DeLaCruz, talking. That is somebody on Johnson's side of the table here.
We cannot be a partner to a budget that will push Chicago over a financial cliff and wreak havoc on taxpayers of today and tomorrow. And as we approach the December 30th deadline to pass a budget that protects our economic future.
When asked who created Chicago's fiscal crisis, Johnson produced a flyer titled Closing the Trump Deficit. The Chicago Tribune found one substantial frozen Trump-era city grant. It was $36 million. The deficit here, my friends, is $1.15 billion. But sure, blame Trump. Los Angeles budgeted nearly $1 billion for homelessness. They spent about half. I want to be precise where the information comes from because this is a Democrat exposing a Democrat. The LA City Controller, also a Democrat, released a report stating that the large homelessness budget, quote, leads the public to believe the city is spending much more on homelessness than it actually is. That, my friends, is the city controller describing his own city's budget document as a misleading document.
A record $1.3 billion was budgeted to address the crisis, but the city controller's office says that less than $600 million has been spent. The report says that there are several reasons as to why this has happened, including a lack of coordination among city departments and agencies.
He's the city's own accountant saying that's why we're here, meaning nobody else is going to say it. Across fiscal years 2024 and 2025, 2 consecutive years, nearly $1 billion sat in accounts budgeted for homelessness services and did not get deployed. In a city with approximately 70,000 people living unsheltered, the city announced the money, they took the credit for the compassion, and quietly rolled it over. Twice. Mayor Karen Bass says she's committed to transparency. She noted homelessness dropped 17%. She's obviously trying to run for re-election here. Karen Bass can't use the callback phrase on this video tonight. She's been mayor since 2022. Blaming the guy who just got here doesn't work when you are the guy who got there. This one's yours, Karen Bass. In 2013, New York City's budget was approximately $7 billion. In 2026, Mayor Zohran Mamdani proposed a budget of $127 billion. That is an 81% increase in 13 years. And they have a $5.4 billion budget deficit. The budget grew 81% and they still ran out of money. I want to give whoever engineered this outcome an award for this. I don't know what it's called. I'm not sure the category has been invented yet, but I'm sure it exists. Frame it and put it on the wall somewhere.
The prior mayoral administration has left us with a $12 billion fiscal deficit. And this is at a scale that's actually greater than what we saw here in New York City during the Great Recession. And it's something that is attributable to gross fiscal mismanagement, to a refusal to actually budget honestly and be direct with New Yorkers.
A refusal to budget honesty, said the man who inherited the problem and now is proposing to cut estate tax exemptions by 90%. Now here's where Mamdani gets creative. 3-level escalation. Follow this carefully here. Level 1, he proposes cutting New York's estate tax exemption from $7.3 million down to $750,000. Level 2, while simultaneously raising the top estate tax rate from 16% to 15%. Level 3, the median home value in New York City is approximately $700,000. He's targeting the ultra wealthy, and some of them own houses.
There are 2 paths to bridge this gap. And if we do not go down the first path, the city will be forced down a second, more harmful path.
Mamdani says the more painful path would involve raising the city's property tax rate by 9.5%. That's the only tax the city has the power to raise without permission from Albany. That would generate $3.7 billion in revenue. But without reform, the increase would impact all homeowners at all income levels.
2 paths. Path 1, raise taxes on the rich. Path 2, raise property taxes on everybody. Notably absent in this conversation is path 3. The bonus punchline here, and I'll save you this one. New York is simultaneously hiring thousands of new teachers to comply with a 2022 state law limiting class sizes. The city's own comptroller estimates this adds over $1 billion annually to the existing deficit. A Democrat state legislator passed a law requiring Democrat-run cities to hire people it can't pay for. Nobody ran the math before the vote. Nobody has run the math ever since. Mamdani described all of this resulting from, quote, years of fiscal mismanagement. He's been the mayor for less than a year. Somebody mismanagement. He knows who, and he's going to say their name at a press conference. Blame the guy who just got here. Denver Mayor Mike Johnston announced a $200 million gap and immediately ordered furloughs and hiring freezes.
Mayor Mike Johnston revealed his proposed 2026 budget.
We have worked to now close a $200 million budget gap across the city, and doing that all while protecting core city services.
So let's break it down. There was $118 million in personnel savings through staff reductions, $77 million saved in services and supply adjustments.
He's presenting closing a gap his own spending created as a management accomplishment. Denver's rainy day fund dropped to 11%, below the 15% floor the city set for itself, because they've been pulling from emergency savings to pay regular operating expenses. My friends, this is not what a rainy day fund is for. That is what a salary is for. They use the umbrella money to buy groceries. Now there's no umbrella and they're out of groceries. San Francisco budget gap approaching $1 billion. The city spent $1 billion on homelessness programs and the cut went up. They commissioned a report to understand why. The report cost money. The homelessness went up. The report recommended more programs. Of course they did.
We have close to $1 billion budget deficit over the next 2 years. As a city, we have a fiscal responsibility, and actually by law, we have to have a balanced budget, and that requires making painful cuts.
Painful cuts, they said, after years of spending that didn't produce any promised results. Washington, D.C. credit downgraded in December 2024. The federal government contributes direct payments to D.C.'s budget. They still got downgraded. Absolutely remarkable here. But remember the administration that was in charge. In a city where where approximately 1 in 6 residents has a career that involves explaining to other people how to manage money. Baltimore, the Truth in Accounting Project gives Baltimore taxpayers burden roughly $20,000 per resident, meaning every person who files taxes there effectively owes the city that amount before the city breaks even, on top of their actual taxes. The city's response was a new entertainment tax. Philadelphia, structural deficient. The city's own budget office was warning it is not self-correcting. Philadelphia's current solution involves a tax on sweetened beverages, generating roughly $70 million annually. The structural gap is in the hundreds of millions. Somebody in that budget office believes in miracles here. Some cities run deficits, and commit federal crimes. New Orleans and Jackson, Mississippi. I want you to completely appreciate what these two cities accomplished. This is not ordinary failure here. This is an artisanal baguette of failure, handcrafted with absolute care. New Orleans first. A federal indictment is not a complaint letter. It is a formal charge document reviewed by the grand jury, stating specific crimes with specific evidence. 18 federal counts. It's not a paperwork error here.
A 45-page federal indictment accuses Mayor LaToya Cantrell and her former security officer Jeffrey Vappy of using his city job and her authority to bill taxpayers for his salary while on trips disguised as official work.
The reason why we have evidence is because it is supported by reality.
Prosecutors say Vappy faked timesheets and activity logs to get paid for work he didn't do, as the documents allege the mayor helped him.
This wasn't just a situation of Officer Vappy and the mayor holding hands in the back of a car on the way to an event. This is, in fact, them manufacturing trips.
Manufacturing trips. That is the prosecutor's word here. This is not mine. The government says she didn't take real work trips and then bill them for it. She invented fake work trips with her lover and then billed them. It's creatively noble. She is the first sitting mayor in New Orleans history to be indicted while holding office. She pled not guilty. Obviously she did. Surrendered her passport. A federal judge restricted her travel. The day after her arraignment, she went to work at City Hall as the mayor of New Orleans. I respect the commitment here.
If she did that, what else did she do? She had the credit card thing going in when she was on city council, and here she is doing something else. Come on, red flags?
A regular citizen in New Orleans just identified the pattern faster than the oversight systems did. Red flags. Plural, red flags from the council days. Nobody with the badge connected them until the FBI did. Now, Jackson, Mississippi. Population approximately 150,000 people. In August, February 2022, the city's largest water treatment plant failed. Residents here were told to boil their water before using it. The crisis stretched on and lasted for months. The federal government eventually had to assume oversight of the water systems. While this was happening, I want you to hold that image in your head here. So think about no clean water, federal takeover. The FBI sent undercover agents posing as Nashville real estate developers to Jackson. They wanted to know if they could bribe the mayor. You guys got that in your head? Newsflash here. They could.
Authorities claim that during a trip, Lumumba accepted $50,000 concealed as 5 $10,000 campaign donations while on a yacht. The payment from developers was exchanged along with a request that the city move up the deadline for proposals for the hotel project.
Kudos to the FBI. The FBI built a yacht in Fort Lauderdale, sold it to a meeting with the mayor of the city with no clean water, handed him $50,000 in cash. He took it. Mayor Lumumba traveled to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He boarded a yacht. He accepted $50,000 from people who were in fact federal law enforcement officers. He's been charged with conspiracy, bribery, racketeering, wire fraud, and money laundering. And of course, he lost the election bid. No water, yacht in Fort Lauderdale. FBI paid for the boat. He served 7 years. He cannot use the callback. FBI paid for the boat. Unfortunately, Lumumba can't use the callback. He's the guy. He was there. America, here's the part that they hope that you scroll past. These cities are going to come to you through state budgets, through Congress, through federal agency for a bailout. And P.S., they won't call it a bailout. They'll call it infrastructure investment or something like that. They'll call it equity in the communities. They'll call it addressing decades of federal negligence, whatever they want to call it. And when they do, nobody in that room will ask why $1 billion sat unspent in Los Angeles's homeless accounts for 2 consecutive years. Nobody will ask how the city with no clean water ended up with its mayor on a yacht in Fort Lauderdale. Nobody will ask why the mayor's own appointed board refused to pay his own pension bill. Those questions obviously aren't on the agenda. But here's the closing receipt. 20 cities, nonpartisan source, budget documents, official filings, credit rating agencies that have no political horse in this race, all pointing at the same direction. This is not an opinion piece here. This is a fiscal report with a very consistent finding. When the ask comes, and it will, somebody will go on television and explain it's not their fault. The external forces are at play. There are more resources. The plan will work. Blame the guy who just got there. If everything else fails, blame Trump. Except now, they want you to pay for the next round. Nobody will ask the hard questions in the room where the money gets negotiated. That's not what those rooms are for. But you just did. I just did. City by city with actual receipts. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe. And as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.